Are you friggin' ready? Are you friggin' ready?
I'm 5 minutes late, but I'm ready. I'm 5 minutes late, but I'm ready.
And then that just threw me off completely.
I'm here.
And I had to like fill the 5 minutes. Right?
And then my appointment after this just texted to say that they're 15 minutes late. So the world just
look at that.
Completely always works out for TK Butler.
You're like Moses, right? Like
you know what I mean?
See parts as you approach.
Things just go my way.
Wow.
You know, what can I say?
Are you busy right now?
I'm busy, man.
You're busy. You're the number one guy on the number one team in the number one city in the weirdest country in the world right now.
There's definitely other people who are busy too, but I'm exceptionally busy right now.
What makes you busy while people are dying out there, like so obviously dying? Like what are you busy selling things, or are you busy trying to sell things right now?
Both. I got one that has got an inspection going on right now that I sold 2 days ago conditionally on inspection. Good neighborhood, big price tag. You know, actions there. I've got you know, some buyers that I'm working with that were making offers, trying to get things done. You know, going on appointments, doing different things. This is how it works. Yeah, but no, life is busy. But I mean, look, right now, at the end of the day, the people who are talking to us about real estate, most of them, I've been saying this already. I feel like I'm repeating myself, but I need people to understand. Okay, my job is not, you know, only when people are making money because they bought it for 100 grand less 3 months ago and they're going to flip it. You know, we're in business. You know, at the end of the day, people are going to be buying and selling for different reasons. And as long as there's transactions happening, then, you know, real estate agents are doing something, right? There's somebody doing something at some point, right? It's just when the money's really easy and that people are making money so fast, transactions are high. I mean, we were at an abnormally high amount of transactional volume for so many years. You know, you start getting into that like 100,000+ transactions for Toronto. That's a lot of transactions to go around. And so that's why everyone was really, you know, upset with real estate agents. But now, you know, numbers are coming down. Whatever it is, 75,000 transactions, that's one per agent.
Well, but nobody has anything to be upset at realtors for at the moment, because most of them are hiding on social media and definitely not willing to kind of state an opinion anymore. But even if they are out there, I don't believe that most of them are doing anything, actually, TK, because sales have fallen off a cliff. Right.
One thing I can tell you for sure, like I'm like 100%, like I can track this, is I've done double the amount of work this year in order to do the same amount of business.
Double the amount of work. Okay.
Double the amount of work. Listings take longer to sell. Buyers take longer to work with. You know, contacts with clients takes longer. Transactions become more convoluted. Like, yeah, it's just, there's twice as much. I'm working twice as hard this year, and I'm hoping to, you know, do the same thing I did last year. But I mean, it's, you know, more work for sure. It's a lot.
So, but what are we seeing right now? Are we seeing bidding wars? Are we seeing people coming in under asking and offers getting accepted? What's going on out there right now?
The bidding war market, I think, is really limited to certain areas, certain pockets, certain type of homes. I would definitely not say that would be a good strategy for most people in most neighborhoods. I got one that I put up yesterday that there's an offer date for next week. You know, in that area, there seemed to be a few that were happening. And so I thought, okay, you know what, let's give it a shot and, you know, try our best to be able to make sure that we maximize the dollars for the clients. On another one that I had last week, I put the bidding date in there just to be able to protect the seller. He's an old guy. I want to make sure I'm not underselling his property. You know, we didn't even get offers that day. We got offers afterwards, and I'm still working on it now. And
does that protect the seller? What if it goes poorly?
Well, I was worried that it was worth more because there was a huge spread. Like, we listed his house for 1.7 and the last one on the street sold for 2.4. And I was like, that's a big spread, right? I was like,
that
that's a big
entice
spread.
Some people to look at the listing.
Think, but it didn't, because it's just, he needs so much work.
No bully offers.
Darryl, we're not like, We're on the market still at 1.7,
Are you
offers
like
anytime.
checking your phone to see if it's broken?
No. It's just what it is it needs a lot of work. The positioning of that house on the street is better than this house. There might be things like size differences, little things like that, but 700K wasn't, a big enough discount for people to go, wow, let's jump in there, right? And people also don't want to do the work. Who wants to renovate a house? Not many people.
I don't even know how you would find trades that you can trust. Do you want to hear a story, TK?
From
you want to
Darryl,
hear
of
what I'm
course.
dealing with right now? So this should be simple, you would think, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got eaves troughs, and there's a lot of guys out there that can clean your eaves troughs. And so I call a few guys, and I have no idea how to pick the right guy. I see reviews online, and the guy, sounded nice. So I hired him, right? His price was pretty good, not the cheapest. I learned my lesson there, TK, a long time ago.
Yeah.
And showed up, came to do the work. Guy said, there was a couple little problems because you got those hedges over there, so we couldn't get it 100% perfect. I was like, okay. And then they called to collect, and the guy sends me a text saying, we're only able to do 85% of your eaves troughs because of a lack of access from all of the hedges. And so I went out there and I was like, I'm pretty sure I can get to every single inch of these eaves troughs if I made even the worst possible, smallest effort on earth. I could reach everywhere in these eaves troughs. So what's going on here? And I said, do you have any pictures of the clean eaves troughs? Because I felt like maybe I'm getting scammed here, right? These guys were here for like
On that
under
roof.
an hour. They're not doing the whole thing.
They didn't
It's
try
like,
to sell you the leaf covers.
I asked for those, and they're
Okay.
like, you don't need them. We'll just come back and do it again.
That puts them out of business.
I don't know what. I guess that puts them
Where
out
do you
of
find all
business,
these
right?
guys that come to your
I don't
house?
know what the hell's going on, but this is what's out there at every
Yeah.
level. And so, I'll give you another quick story because this is unbelievable. I don't know if you remember, I was supposed to have renovations again, and we had a guy lined up. We hired him, we gave him a deposit, and then it started getting a little weird and sketchy before he started, right? Everything kept getting postponed and delayed, and then we were about to start, and then it got delayed again. And then he decided that he didn't want to do the job anymore. And he sent me my money back, funny enough, too.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the hell's going on. I don't know who uses who. In my experience right now, it doesn't matter if I've had a referral from somebody I trust or if I've just gone out there
You got
and
a
gone
black
for
cloud
broke.
of contractors hanging above your head.
Well, I
Eh?
just think that this is the level of skill that we have out there once you've actually really eaten up the good skill.
I got great. No, I got great guys. Like I have nothing but great experices with some of the guys I've been
Let me
dealing
come
with
see
lately.
that, TK, because I got a feeling our what's the word I'm looking for? I have a feeling you tolerate much more than I would ever be able to. And
Probably. But
your expectations are
I
much
have a confession
different.
to make that I'm gonna do live.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Did somebody else go to jail in your family?
I gotta do another confession here. I feel like this
Uh-oh.
is the best place to do it. I need to get it off my conscience.
Uh-oh. What
So I had
what
a
did you
big
do?
tree in my backyard.
Oh no, TK, you're not gonna do this, are you?
Okay. And now back in 2013, the tree a branch landed on the neighbor's house, like crushed
Oh,
the back of
here's
their
the
house during the
setup.
ice storm.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. There's the
So
spin.
then
Yeah.
they cut off the other side of the tree because it was hanging over the other neighbor's house, right?
Dangerous.
Okay. It's a silver
Dangerous
maple.
tree. Yeah.
So because they cut off that one side of the trunk, it was like this huge trunk. Like you're talking easily, what would that be?
That thing's
Diameter of
like
like
10
two and a
feet,
half
man.
feet. Like it was like crazy, like a crazy
That
thick
thing's
diameter on the
huge.
bottom. Okay. That was before I bought the house. I bought the house in 2014. So they did that all in 2013. So that part of the tree has just been rotting and rotting and rotting. And it's like this massive part. So like all the insects have climbed in it and all like, it was just like, it was just hollow. Like it was just nothing. And like, that's the bottom of this tree. Now this is the biggest tree in the neighborhood. Okay. This tree
Everybody knows
is
the tree.
200 feet high. It's hanging over. Now it's hanging over the back neighbor's property, not their house, but their property. It's this huge tree. It's just like a freaking weed, silver maple. And so we had a big windstorm. And the windstorm happened. It was huge. This windstorm was it was
Where the
last
hell
week.
was
It
it?
was about a week and a half ago. It was incredible. I don't know if it was in a neighborhood near you, but it certainly was in my neighborhood. And this windstorm was so strong that there were a lot of trends. I even have a photo of a client's house where we sold the property a week later. The tree fell down, uprooted on their front driveway. Luckily, no one was in the driveway, but like I happened to be picking up the lockbox and like 20 minutes earlier, the tree had fallen. So I took a picture. So I've got evidence that this windstorm existed that week. And my tree in my backyard was affected, Darryl. It was affected. And I saw the imminent danger that was about to happen. Yeah. And if I had to go and get an arborist report and had to be able to go and, go through the process of being able to get, this done, lives were at stake.
Lives were at stake. People don't realize how important
trees are.
Biggest
tree in the neighborhood. This just wasn't a regular tree. This was the biggest tree in the neighborhood.
It doesn't even matter. It could be like a much smaller tree, and it would matter just as much because
this was
all
children
trees
would have been injured during the falling of this tree. So I had no choice but to call a guy who I just so happened, like, luckily I had gotten a quote from this guy and that he was ready because you need a crane. Yeah. You need a crane to take up this tree.
That happens. Yeah.
You need a crane. And it was really cool.
Big crane. I saw the picture.
The biggest crane, and they come over and they chop the tree and they take it over and it was done in a day. And those guys, I tell you, those guys were pros. I can't say who they are. But you can message me and I'll connect you if you're looking for someone in the GTA who's a good professional tree outfit.
People don't realize how
luckily, thankfully, they saved millions of people's property and lives and all sorts of stuff and
all sorts of lives were saved.
And it was just the tree. Unfortunately, we lost a good tree.
A good tree. But people just don't realize how much trees are really protected by our government and how important they are. But more importantly, our guests are here, TK.
Okay, enough of the nonsense.
Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Yeah,
no problem. What's going on?
Welcome.
We are just shooting the shit about trees for some bloody reason. I don't know why that happened.
We had to cut down a tree. Trees are tough. In the city of Toronto, it's hard to cut down a tree, So, but
yeah,
we prevented any children from getting hurt.
Very good.
The tree is no more, and the world is a better place. That's all I can say. So we're
all safe.
We're all good.
Well, so
tell us a little bit about you guys. Yeah. So give us a little introduction, who you are, where you're from, and a little background for our listeners.
Very good. Cortez, you want to start or me?
Yeah, you go ahead, Brooke.
Okay. Well, my name's Brooke HIcks. I am the co-host of the Canadian Real Estate Homefront podcast. I am a realtor in the Halton and Hamilton regions, and I am the team lead of the Brooke HIcks team. Been an agent for about 8 years now. I'm an active investor myself. I guess that's the high level,
great intro,
quick intro I can do for you.
Cool. Cortez, please.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm similar to Brooke. 8 years in the real estate business. I do invest, not so much in what Brooke invests in. She's more of the duplex girl. I kind of invest in other areas, and it kind of brings some banter on our real estate show, Canadian Real Estate Homefront, where we kind of go back and forth a little bit on what we think the market's going to do. And most people know us from our short form clips that we put on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube shorts. It's kind of where we're most known for. But we just like economics. We like real estate, and we just give out free information and hopefully help people make better decisions. So that's kind of our goal.
But let's be honest here. You're right now, the number one source of your income is clearly the podcast, because podcasts pay.
Podcasts.
Right? Don't lie.
It's definitely worth all the time,
revenue streams from these podcasts.
Hilarious. I thought you were being serious for a second. I was gonna be like, whoa.
What are we missing out on?
What are we doing wrong, right?
Yeah. That's so funny.
No, so tell us the background. I want to hear about the podcast first. Yeah, tell us about the podcast. When did that start? And give us some information, because we're hoping that some of our listeners will jump on your guys' crew too.
It's funny because about a year, and so it's been about 14 months, and I had this idea that I wanted to interview different trades, meaning like interview a plumber and say, like, get all the, most common issues, interview a roofer and all that good stuff. So I started doing it, but the quality wasn't very good. I didn't know where I was going with it. It was just kind of an idea. And then Cortez and I had met just through the industry, and I said, oh, come on, I'm going to try to do a podcast. And then when I was asking questions as if I was interviewing him, he like stole the show and talked all this economy stuff. And I'm like, you're good. You're good. This is good. So we decided at that point that both of us should actually just continue together rather than it just be an interview style, because I found that just the value and all the things that I even learned back then from having him on, I was like, you got a lot of good stuff up in that brain. And he has a background in economics, which obviously pairs well with where the Canadian market, real estate market is at. And then ever since then, we've just been going and consistent. And I think it's kind of got traction. I think that the guy girl duo, you don't see that a lot. So that's what differentiates us a little bit when I look at other people's podcasts and what other mainstream podcasts there are in this in these markets. So that's kind of how we started, I guess.
Awesome. And so it's every weekly podcast?
We try.
Frequency. Okay.
Yeah, we try. Yeah,
that's the hardest part, right?
We try and do once a week, like for sure. We've been pretty diligent with that. But our short form is definitely more diligent. It's definitely like our Instagram is very active. But yeah, we try and hit it once a week. But you know, like you guys said and even joked about, it's not the main source of income. It's definitely a business driver. It definitely helps. But you know, if Brooke's got a listing appointment and I got showings at night, sometimes we just got to reschedule. So it is what it is. But
yeah, I always, like, right from the beginning, and I told this to Darryl, I was like, we're going to have fun doing it. I said, I don't care, like making money, getting clients, all that kind of stuff. If that's the goal and then you're not reaching those goals, it becomes like, oh, I got to do that podcast again. Right. But like, we're excited. So every week we do it. We have fun. We like talking to new people. Sometimes it's just us. Sometimes we know what we're talking about. Other times we are proven in the comments that we don't. And it's just, we're having fun. So we're like, hey, you know what? This is why we're doing it. So good for you guys.
I was just actually saying to my wife the other day that the podcast is really the number one priority for me, because it's actually brought some pretty amazing opportunities just by having the podcast. Not if I was reliant on the ad revenue, I would be one of the people in a tent city for sure. But it has actually brought some great opportunities my way, lucky enough. And I mean, I know it's worked out well for TK, but the reason I think it actually has brought those things is because we actively don't try to attract them. We're just here being a couple of goofy guys who happen to have some experience in the industry. And, you know, like TK said, is we just try and have fun once a week and stick to that and see where the hell it takes us. But for me, this has definitely become top priority for me, and it's fun, which is great, right? But I think people look at this whole thing wrong. If you're looking at it as not lead generation for something, and you're just looking at it as a source of revenue for a living, you're pretty much fucked, right? You guys aren't making a fortune, are you, on TikTok and Instagram?
No, I think you nailed it on the head, to be honest. I always say to Brooke, I'm having so much fun just interacting with people and just putting out that information, just even being invited on podcasts that I used to previously watch years ago, and now I'm actually a guest, which is super cool. So yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. When you're having fun, it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. Awesome. So what's going on in the market, guys? This is what the show is all about. Canadian real estate show.
Busy?
You guys busy? What are we doing right now?
I'm not as busy as I was at the beginning of the year.
We were busy. Yeah.
Sorry. What did you say?
I said we were busy. Yeah. Not now though. I'm not going to sit around and, you know, that the realtor who always say, "Oh, I'm so busy. I'm so busy."
Market's going up.
Numbers are down.
Bye.
Like, listings are up. Me and Brooke were talking about 3 listings we had this year. We staged and we couldn't get them sold, right? And then they ended up pulling the plug, and it's a hard time. So we're happy to get the opportunity to try and sell these things, but as all good agents know, in tough markets, sometimes you just can't sell the thing, and the seller's not willing to take that price, and they end up blaming you. And you've done everything. You staged, you videoed, you've called everyone, and at the end of the day, you just lose the listing. But
don't they just give you your money back? Don't they just say, "Hey, don't worry about it. You've invested tens of thousands of dollars. Here's a check. Thanks for trying." Yeah. No, it doesn't happen like that.
So funny.
It doesn't work like that, as you know.
people, I guess, underestimate the risks that are in real estate, right? And because it becomes a challenge, because now you're going to that next appointment, and now you're like, oh my gosh, is this going to be another one of those Joes? Because Joe, I mean, he told me all the same thing this person's telling me, but in the end, Joe was like, you know what, I don't really need to move anymore. I decided that maybe it wasn't a good time. Thanks for your, support, right? So it becomes a challenge in these markets, right? When you're on the listing side.
Yeah.
You gotta almost protect yourself in a way, right? Like, hey, we're gonna stage it, but you know, you gotta be priced reasonable if we're gonna do a $3,000, $4,000 stage. And we're only going to stage it for 30 days. And then if you want to renew it after then, you know, as a seller, that you can renew at your expense. Because
figure it out.
like, yeah, because at the end of the day, like we can't just keep burning money for people who just want to test the market, right? And I know it sounds like, oh, for you realtors, but it's a lot of money to list a home. So it's also a business. We got to be mindful of what we do, especially with what GTA sales are down 16%, new listings are up 12%. If you're in the condo market, I just read it was down 20% in June year over year. So there's a lot of you know, there's a lot of bearish news out there that we can also get into. I don't know if you guys are down for that.
Well, what is the market doing right now? Is it going up or is it going down?
Well, but hold on
year
a
over
second.
year.
As a realtor, though, as a realtor, when you're trying to make that decision to take on a listing that may or may not be priced right, knowing the cost to you as a realtor and that they may not be recovered, I guess your perspective and your financial position helps dictate that. So most realtors are broke, right? And they're like,
you think so?
Well, a lot of guys are in debt to some
Based
guy
on the
on
75,000 realtors and how many they're selling and all that stuff. That's what
Trust me, most people are living paycheck to paycheck, waiting desperately or in debt, waiting for that next commission to come in, right? So when you, how do you make those decisions, especially from like you guys are obviously younger than me, obviously younger than TK. So, you know, people have to have, no, but really
your face, that was so good.
To make the right decisions, right? Because sometimes you have to burn some money in business and take a listing, even though it may not go the way you want. But if you don't, like, you don't know what's going to come. Maybe you're going to sell it for more than you thought and it's going to go really well. But with all these horrible agents living paycheck to paycheck, and obviously a bunch of young people that have never gone through this before, like, how much is enough to kind of hold out through this period? And can people do that right now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I kind of look at Brooke and I kind of say to, like, if we have a house, I'll kind of give them the three prices, right? The high end, what I think it'll sell for, and what we could go low at and maybe get multiples at. Usually people go for the high end, which, you know, it's human nature. Why not try a little bit more? But it's more of just saying, hey, in 10 days, if we're not sold, if we don't have an offer, if showings fall off, are you willing to drop this price? And then I just say, hey, look, I got to be mindful of expenses. So that's why I ask. It has nothing to do on do I not think I can sell your home at this price? And sometimes I'm surprised. Like, I've had this year a few houses that, you know, they picked the top end, and I was surprised that it even sold. But it's just being mindful of that. But also, you know, like you said, a lot of realtors don't even sell homes. And if they do sell homes, they got the BMW lease payment in. And, you know, their negative cash flow, or, you know, they're just talking out of their ass. Sorry if I swear, and you can't swear on the show, but it's
only you and Darryl can swear.
Yeah.
Brooke and I can't. We're not allowed to.
It's just being mindful of those costs, right? Like, I know me and Brooke can handle those costs because we're mindful of our money and we talk about money all the time. But, and also it's just like, if there is a seller out there and they want something unrealistic, I'm at the point right now where it's like, I don't even want to take it on because I'm going to lose money. So I know
that's I think the point that I was trying to get at is, right, like, you kind of, there's a moment where you walk into that appointment and you're just like, this reminds me of the last guy, and, you know, he's going to tell me all these sweet words, and then in the end I'm going to walk away where I'm going to lose money. And the sellers, I mean, they don't feel bad for us, the public doesn't feel bad for us, nobody feels bad for realtors when they do that. And so it's about us as individuals, in order to be able to manage our own business and to be able to decide on what business we want to take or not. But there's always going to be risks at the end of the day. Right.
100%. Like, if it's just analyzing the property, right? If there's 6 months of inventory on condos and Liberty Village as an example, and you have a tenanted property in the last sale, you want 50K more than that, and it's the exact same square footage, no finishes difference. Yeah, I'm probably not going to take it. You know, I'm probably going to say, you know what, if that's your bottom line, it's not worth it to me to invest the time and effort into it. No offense. I can, you know, I wish you all the best, but yeah, it's not even trying to be greedy or anything like that. It's just, you know, the numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous game to play when there's no listings around, like, to throw around for everybody, right?
Yeah. Well, there's listings. There's the buyers of the issues, right? Yeah.
So buyers, sorry.
I want to know what you guys are dealing with, like, in your specific markets. Like, what are prices doing? Because like I'm hearing different things and I'm seeing different things, and the numbers say different things. In some areas you're getting competition, some areas you're not. Other areas, like a month ago, you can't get that price anymore. Other areas it's like no problem, there's demand. So I think it's a really mixed bag of figures. So like, what are you guys seeing individually in your own business? Are you seeing prices are declining because there's an excess amount of inventory in the areas that you're working? What are you seeing?
I wouldn't say they're necessarily declining. They have declined a substantial amount, and now there's a influx of listings. So whether some sellers are willing to take a lower price to just get it sold, depending on their situation, sometimes you'll see that lower price and it's like, oh, that was a really good deal. And then I'm seeing a lot of expired listings too. So I do think that your listing strategy is so important in this market, because you will see multiple offers if it is a good house in a really good pocket. For example, I do a lot of business in Falgarwood in Oakville. It is like one of the best communities for school. It's such a family-oriented neighborhood. And usually the listings that I have in that pocket, if I do, the staging, really present them well and then price it competitively, I usually get multiple people that want it, and it's just a matter of that pocket. I think that some people aren't ready to jump in with the amount of economic uncertainty and hearing all of this stuff, election things coming up, rates not knowing where they're at, and just kind of want to see how things play out for a little bit. So unless it's something that, they are like, I'm willing to, I guess, risk if the economy were to decrease for them. I'm willing to risk because this is the house that I want and I see long term, that I don't want to wait on the sidelines in hopes to save another 50K, because what is the perfect home? How can I value that if it's the perfect home? So it's like, I think people just have more choice and there's no urgency in the market. So list price strategy and really taking a listing and transforming it into presenting it in its best possible light is really, really important. Like I see all these listings on the market, not staged, not even clean. There's clutter on the counters. Like you're not attracting buyers, especially when there's no urgency. If the rates were 2%, you could do those things. Now you can't. So back to what Cortez said, it's important that the realtor that you're working with is data driven as well with the market value. Because if you're listing too high in a market where things are already slow, you're going to become stale, and it's going to be really hard to catch the momentum that you could have had going out if you had have priced it competitively. And then I always say to people too, it's like sellers are holding on to this price, but a lot of people that are selling their homes are selling and then they're also going to buy. If you're selling and buying in the same market, things become relative. If you're waiting for, that price, you want 100K more for your house, well, then you're going to buy 100K more, unless you're buying and selling in completely different cities, then it could be different, but it becomes relative at that point. So maybe take a little bit less on the sale. You might get a great deal on the buy, because it's usually a blanket city to city in terms of price fluctuations and a percentage.
But are sellers actually expecting to sell quickly nowadays? Anybody that is actually selling, is anybody thinking they're going to be sold in 2 weeks? Like the good old days?
I think, yeah.
They still do?
Yeah.
I
think
do.
that because sellers have been spoiled for so long. And this is where I've been talking about, you're going to have this battle between buyers and sellers, and where's it going to meet? So what I always talk about is that if inventory is increasing, new listings is increasing, eventually as renewals come up, as people kind of grasp reality that their house isn't worth as much as they want, prices are going to come down until the buyer demand meets where that seller is willing to part ways with the home over time. And it's just going to take time, right? You have disposable income is at 134%. And if you look at the great financial crisis, 128%. So, we have a lot of debt in this country. And as renewals come up, right? As renewals are hitting in 25 and 26, it's only more pain, not just for the people who can muster it and hang on, but that trickles into the Canadian economy because you have less people spending out there. So
we were the superstars in the great financial crisis. We fucking crushed it. We had the best banking system in the world. We made it through that better than anybody. Why is this time going to be different?
Well, that's what everyone always says, right? This time's different.
Well, the issue with what Darryl was saying is the number that Cortez was just quoting there is just exactly where consumer spending was, and that we were more stable because there hadn't been the same level of exposure on the banking system here. So people still could borrow money.
Is it
but
an
really, we made a
overall
mistake.
population number? Is that overall, or is that per person? Like, what is that number? It's overall, right? So there's so many more people making up that number. Is that a lot of debt? Is that less debt per person now? Must be less debt per capita than back then, no?
The great financial crisis was all the. So when I say that number, it's all the U.S. It has nothing to do with us. Yeah, it's the U.S. So it's a bigger population.
That's
actually
what's capsized their ship, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think we made a mistake by not joining them in that crisis. I mean, like, how great would it be right now if prices were just like, 2012 prices, and that we were all dealing with 6% interest rates, right? And that you didn't have $1 million mortgage, you had a $500,000 mortgage, and you were stressed about that. That's what it's like in the States. So when you see all these comparisons, they always compare Niagara Falls because it's like right on the border and the prices and all that kind of stuff. They have it so good down there. The people, I was at so like this week I saw a guy, he was from Dubai, and then I was at a 30-year anniversary, and 100% of the people, this is like a sign that I'm getting, 100% of the people that I'm meeting whose kids are in their 20s are all getting jobs outside of Canada now. The brain drain of all the best people is being sucked away because, like, you don't see a vision for yourself here. You don't see an opportunity for you to be able to buy a house or have the life that you grew up in. So immediately you're like, well, where can I get that life? And so they want to go outside and find it. In the States, there's lots of opportunities in the States that are better than here for a lot of people.
What's been the bull case?
How are you going to go work in the States? Like
you're going to get drafted into the war now.
It's not like for when you're established here. I agree, Brooke. It's hard. It's when you're just coming out of school and then it's all the job offers are coming in. That's your chance, right?
Yeah.
That's the brain drain, is when they just freshly graduated and they've got a good degree that's in demand, and there's companies in the States offering them stuff, and they say, you know what, I'm getting paid more money and cost of living's cheaper, so I'm going to go. Right? Doesn't mean that they won't come back.
They did a poll, and 2 out of 5 immigrants are wanting to leave Canada because of the high cost of living. And it gets even worse. That's on a 10-year period. If you actually decline it to a 5-year period, the poll gets even worse. So if you look at all these job fairs, right? And it's, you can tell it's students, it's immigrants going up, and it's all low skill work, right? It's not like we're bringing in enough doctors. We all know that. It's not like we're bringing in enough skilled workers. We have these low skill workers, and it's nothing against them. It's just the reality of the situation is, I live in downtown Toronto, and it's obvious who the Uber driver is, right? Every day, I come in, I walk into my building, and they can't figure out how to dial the number on the screen. Like, that's how low skill it is. They can't get on the screen. It says touch and hold for 4 seconds, and they aren't even able to read that. So they ask me, help. And then I have to help them dial the number. I'm doing the last part of the job for them.
Can't drive either. I don't know if you've noticed that at all when you've been in the Ubers, but it's really an issue.
It is an issue.
Crazy sometimes in those Ubers. But okay, so we all recognize that there's a giant mess here, right? I've been to summits trying to figure it out with some pretty big players, and nobody has a clue really what the hell to do. But what's clear is that everybody is the right word complicit, TK, or is it implicit? Maybe it's both, but like, we've all played a part in kind of driving this market into insanity, right? Because we're all trying to make the most money on everything that we can touch. And we're all, a lot of us are very entrepreneurial. So, even if we're realtors, like you said, you're an investor, a realtor, and, a lot of us do multiple things, right? And is there anything that we can do to kind of help fix this mess other than pointing the finger? See, the end result of this summit I went to ended up being that it was the government's fault for everything, right? And it was also that they were a big part in helping with a lot of things too, right? So other than pointing at the government, are there things that we as an industry could do better so that there isn't like this one hatred for realtors and developers? I mean, nobody likes us at all, right? People think, if we make a goddamn penny, it's the end of the world. We should build all the houses for free. But so as an industry, we have this horrible rap because we all make money, and I don't know, do we make it look easy? Like, what is the problem with the industry? Why does everybody hate us?
You're a developer, Darryl.
Yeah, but they
So it's
hate
a
you
little bit
guys
different.
way more
They
than
they hate
me.
realtors more.
Way more.
But I think probably one of the parts would be cost of housing. Like, as cost when housing, you guys should be answering this question, but I'll give it to you afterwards.
Yeah.
But when house prices are reasonable, everybody's happy, right? When house prices are not reasonable, when the economy's down, everybody's pointing the finger. Nobody's happy. They're looking for people to blame, right? They're looking for people to be able to say, this is why I'm not achieving the things that I want to, and they don't really want to look within. But anyways, that's another topic. So what do you guys think, though? What are the solutions, right? We know there's a problem. What are the solutions that we need to see for people to be able to want to stay in Canada, and specifically in the housing market? Like, how does this housing market get back on track?
Well, there's a few things that I think. Like, we always talk about the supply of homes, right? Like, everyone comes on and says, hey, we need to build 3.8 million homes, and then that'll fix the problem. But no one talks about the easier part of the equation, which is the demand side. Rents are up 9% year over year. Like, no shit, because you have way too much demand. Like, if you just like really peel it back. So if you cut off demand, and what I mean by that is you stop allowing as many people into the country, you will see an alleviation of house prices and rental prices, which could cause financial turmoil for some investors who can't get as high as rents. But that's just the natural part of a cycle, is that this cycle has gone on too high. And yeah, I know a lot of people want to blame the government, and I think there's a lot of issues here, but politics affects economies, and economies affect markets. So when you have a federal government crushing zoning, and you're a developer, you'll know that, Darryl, and making it harder for people to build the homes that they say they're going to build, but they're never going to. And then you have an influx of people coming in with false promises that, this Canadian dream is actually not as good as these recruiters have promised, and all these, puppy mill sort of schools have promised people. That's a big federal issue that needs to get clamped down on it. And why do people hate realtors? Well, here's an example. I was reading BuzzFeed this morning, and it said, now's the time to buy. Prices are down, volumes are up. Now's the time to buy. Like, it's just, if you were someone giving financial advice and you said, Tesla stock's going to be $1,000 in 8 years, you should buy it right now. Like, you don't know at all. Like, you don't have a crystal ball. And if you give someone that advice, you would be in trouble. But in real estate, you don't get in trouble. So I think that there has to be a lot more scrutiny in the real estate business, where, people make these outlandish claims that real estate prices just go up, and you should buy right now. And over the long run, it has. But ask someone who bought in the peak of the market in 2021, how they're doing right now on their investment, and they're coming up for renewal. So now their mortgage is either their amortization is going to shoot to 70 years if they had a fixed rate variable product, or their payments are about to get a lot higher. So I don't know. That's kind of my 2 cents. I think there's way too many people in the business, and it's just too easy to get your license with not enough education.
Brooke, are you on the demand side or the supply side to fix this?
I think that, like, one of Cortez and I's first podcast episodes was actually looking into the affordability in Canada. So if you go to other provinces, things become affordable. Canada is not an unaffordable country. It is the cities where, yes, most of the jobs are. So you look at the States, yes, things are more affordable, but the infrastructure and the amount of cities that are outside of like the GTA kind of cities, like outside of New York City, there's just so much infrastructure, and there's so much more, I guess, that like the more houses you have, obviously the cost is going to be low. So here, even though we're high in inventory right now, we're like, well, there's the most amount of condos on the market, et cetera, we still have so low inventory compared to a country like the States. So I think removing the red tape we always talk about, making it easier to actually build these communities, and even like for developers, removing so many of these taxations and these wait times, and actually just getting more supply out there, then obviously that's going to curb the price increases on the demand side. We talk about it all the time, but like, yeah, Canada as a whole isn't necessarily unaffordable. It's the GTA, it's Vancouver, like all these major cities that have the most jobs, but look how much land we have too. And
but you made actually a really good point, though. Actually, the infrastructure, that's our number one obstacle. right? Like when we were looking at expanding into all these areas that are considered like white belt and, these just outside some of the official plans and some of the urban centers that they already have, literally they could tell you tomorrow you can start building, Mr. Developer. It'll take 10 years.
Yeah.
Because there's just no infrastructure for them to actually do anything there. They don't
the
have a
Science
place.
Center has some infrastructure, I think, near it though.
I think that's a good spot to put some places. Yeah. The Science Center.
Did you hear that somebody said somebody donated like the 500K to fix it because they wanted it open for the kids, and they said now what, as if like they were shutting it down for an ulterior motive than the engineering or architecture is actually not up to code anymore, but they donated 500K, just this family
offered. No, it's the guy, one of the investors from Shopify.
Oh, no way.
We're going to respond on behalf of the provincial government to the guy from Shopify, and we're going to just politely decline. It's from Doug
decline.
Ford. You're welcome, Mr. Shopify.
Shut his fucking mouth
your money,
before
and then we got some houses to build. All right,
watch
leave it alone.
Just
relax, we talked about that last episode, so it's not a big deal. But so you can see just you two. You guys are partners. You're on the podcast together. You're talking to each other all the time. You're hearing all these different ideas that you both have. And you both have different ideas. Brooke was a little bit more supply oriented. Cortez was a little bit more demand oriented. Like these are the conversations we have all the time, like what is the solution? And it's like everybody's kind of just trying to do their part. But at the end of the day, what we've seen right now is we've got a high amount of inventory right now. Sellers aren't willing to take lower prices. So obviously having all this inventory on the market doesn't just guarantee that people are going to want to pay less. There's a psychological element that is just hard to quantify. Right now, buyers are still willing to pay a lot of money for houses, in my opinion.
So what do you guys think about, did you guys see how much parents gift the first time buyers?
No, what
did you guys see that from CIBC?
I remember something about it.
They've been releasing that every year or so. They'll give a new report on it.
Is it something new? Like haven't people in Toronto always been getting gifts in order to like afford a down payment?
One point there was like 180,000, and then it was like they've talked about
in
different
Vancouver
metrics.
it's 205,000 roughly is how much the first time home buyer needs. So, but just if you strip that out, right? If you strip those gifts being given away, does that
and the guarantee? You need the guarantee too.
Yeah. Are you kind of inflating the market in a way where you have rich parents, they want you to get in. Here's what the seller's only willing to part ways with. Over time, if you actually didn't have that gift, like would that transfer of wealth, help bring prices down? I mean, I really don't know, but it's just funny to see, right? If you got rich parents, then you have a better chance of owning a home in the country now. It's not like back in the day, right? Where I don't know, my Nono and Nona came here from Italy and they just worked and they bought a house in Hamilton and they didn't have, they weren't making a ton of money. But I always look at price to income and how much that multiplier looks like, and right now it's doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense.
Bad. Yeah,
hasn't made sense for a long time. But like I was saying, people like buyers are still willing to pay because like psychologically they're just okay. And one of Brooke's points earlier is if they're buying and selling in the same market, do they really care that they're overpaying and that the market's going to crash 50%? They're going from the house that they don't like into the house that they do like. Right. So they're like, whatever, like, okay, if the market crashes, it would have crashed while I was living at that other house that I was at. I want to be happy. Right.
Yeah.
So there's still a large volume of transactions. And we just have so many of those people that it just sort of, and then it supports it because then that guy, he sold his place for $1 million. So he bought that other place for 1.2. He doesn't care. He's getting an extra bedroom or whatever his value is on that extra 200,000. So the next guy who comes in as a first time buyer looks around and says 1.2 for a 4-bedroom. Like that's insane. Like these used to be $800,000 only a few years ago, but the last comp is 1.2 because that guy was willing to pay it. So the next seller is not going to sell it to you for less. He wants 1.2. Right. And eventually the buyers are going to go, well, this is the price. I got to pay it. So it's a hard thing to change. And I was telling a story before that we had a client tell me that he was trying to get rid of his place down in Parkdale when the market was crazy and things were really bad in the 90s. And he couldn't give away the house. It was a rental property that cash flowed. And he tried to donate it to charities. He tried to give it away to anybody.
No way.
But he wanted the house. There was just such a lack of interest in real estate. Everyone was like, real estate, bad. Don't buy real estate. So it was a psychological shift that happened through massive amount of power sales, economic circumstances, high unemployment. People were they got burned by the market from everybody who bought at the tail end of the 80s. That's when really we start to see things change, when people all of a sudden just go, whoa, real estate's actually not a good investment. That's what happened in the States.
Could we be there, right? Like, could this be the start of that, right? That lost decade like we had in the 90s where, real estate went down? Because I know a lot of millennials that I talk to, and they don't even think about home ownership. They're not interested in it. Even from my friends, they're like, no, we just rent, and, we can't afford a semi-detached in Toronto for 1.4, 1.5 million. Like, we have no interest in it. So could we, to your point, he couldn't give it away. Could we be headed for that sort of stagnation in the Canadian economy where people just become uninterested with real estate? And like Brooke and I aren't that busy. I know a lot of big time realtors that aren't that busy either, who I chat with, who do a lot more volume than me. And they're saying, this is one of the worst times I've seen in a decade. So I don't know, maybe this trend is going to continue, or maybe rates drop and the bond yield drops and things become more affordable again. But I don't know. I guess every week's different. So to make predictions is challenging.
There's a solution in every market. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. Good markets, bad markets, whatever it is. It's more clients.
More leads.
You got to work twice as
More
hard
money.
right now to get more clients. That's the bottom line.
Sure.
If I can give any agents advice, what we did last year to make an income will not work this year. You have to do twice as much this year. So then that way, when that listing doesn't sell, it's okay because another one does that you were able to secure. When that buyer says he doesn't want to buy it, it's no problem because you're working with 3 other ones. When that person rejects you, when that person says they're going with another agent, when you go to call that person and you look up their address and they're already listed with someone else, that sting goes away because you've already got all these other clients with you. And, it's hard, it's hard to find clients, and more clients is the answer. And right now it's at least double the work. We talked to a big network across North America. Nobody is saying, we're doing the same work we did last year and getting the same results. Nobody. And these are mega teams, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's saying it's at least double the work that we were doing last year, double the touch points. Double
you guys
the time
owe
on
us a few
double
good
everything.
years of hard work because you didn't have to do much for the last few years prior to this, right?
Didn't look like that. No,
That's
didn't look
funny.
like
Didn't
that.
look like that, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But when you're on your 15th house with the same buyer and they keep losing, it wasn't a fun time. You times that by 5 or 6 if you actually have volume. You guys know what it's like.
Yeah, but that's a perception. Darryl's not a realtor, so he can just say that like casually, just like, oh, you guys had it good. We were working a lot of hours, and there was still a lot of work being done.
Your commissions increased by ridiculous exponential amounts because the prices went up. This is why a lot of people hate you bastards, because you're fixed to the price of the asset, and the asset went bananas because of all kinds of reasons. Maybe some of them had something to do with you guys, but for the most part, it would just take a listing and pricing it a little bit less than the last guy and fielding, a bunch of offers for a long time in the city. No? Didn't we have this conversation?
We agree that commissions are too high. Like, I mean, there's no doubt about it. If we got paid for the same amount of work we did at a $500,000 house that we're doing on a $1.5 million house, like, in what business does that make sense? But it is market conditions. And at the end of the day, the market decides that. We actually don't decide our commissions. We'd like to think we do, but the sellers decide them, buyers decide them. If they don't think it's worth it, I mean, they got the whole lawsuit in the States right now about buyer representation. And, we've got similar type of things going on here that we've always had. At the end of the day, when the realtor's value of being able to provide all the services on both the buyer and seller side aren't worth what they're getting paid, the market won't pay it. I promise you. But as of right now, and this is Mark Morris saying this isn't me saying this as a realtor, is the buyers and sellers have indicated that what we're getting paid today is in fact worth it because they've looked at what their other options are and that they want a professional who knows the area, who knows the property, who knows the type of transaction it is, and they don't want to be in trouble. Because there's a lot of people who regret the realtors that they used over the last couple of years who are sitting in those homes underwater right now, renewing those rates, like Cortez was saying. They're not, they regret their decision of going with somebody who didn't know what they were doing.
And a lot of realtors are leaving the business because things are slower right now. So it's,
are they leaving the business? I mean, like, I feel like that's just like a big, like, wheel turning realtor making machine that now Humber, but used to be Aria. But I mean, like, I feel like we're never going to see a decrease in amount of realtors. I don't know.
I think the Treb numbers are down, but like, this is why, I know the fees are high, but I almost feel like they should be a bit higher just to be the realtor, because then you're going to wean out some people that are just hanging on by a thread, right? If you do, I know people are like, well, I always have this conversation with people. If I just like do like my family and friends. Like if I do a couple deals a year, I'm going to make an extra 20 grand, 30 grand or whatever it might be.
No, you're not.
And then I
That's
start
the thing.
telling them about how much it costs to get licensed, all the fees, the insurance and stuff like that. Then they quickly decide, okay, no, that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
But that's the problem is people think it's so easy to become a realtor and just make a switch. Like you have the bottle service girl who, you know, wants to get out of the nightlife and she becomes a realtor, right? You have those people. So there's way too many realtors though. And it's evident that a lot of them don't do deals. It's like hiring a good lawyer versus a shitty one. What is it? I think almost 50% of Treb realtors don't even do a single deal, not even a lease.
Crazy.
Well, I always say, because I deal with a lot of different realtors, and some are commercial and some are residential that end up having a good piece of land or being part of an assembly or who knows how the hell they got involved. But in my personal experience, the amount of good realtors out there are very, very few. And that doesn't mean that there aren't a bunch of people making a shit ton of money and selling things, but a lot of them don't know how to do realtor stuff that you would expect as a client, right?
Yeah.
And most clients don't even know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
So they don't know what the hell some of you guys are doing in the background, right? I was going to ask, when you guys are doing a presentation for a listing, how many people do you figure, they actually talk to? Or do you feel like a lot of people just talk to you and just go for it?
I usually ask. I usually say how many people are you talking to? For the most part, like usually when it's a referral or someone from the podcast, it's usually just us.
Yeah.
That's what it usually is. But yeah, I think it's like when the general public, like say they don't know a realtor or they're not recommended by a friend, they just have like the big 3-4 teams in or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how they manage the process. And, usually when I go against, a big team in TK, I know you are on one, but, usually it's like, oh, this person came over. I didn't get the head of the team. I got, someone else, an associate. And that's kind of like my
TK or something. I asked for Frank Leo. They sent me this guy TK.
I just say I'm Frank. I just say, hey, how are you?
I just say
Leo.
you're Frank. Yeah. But I guess that's kind of my selling thing is like, you get me like that. That's kind of what I say. A lot of big teams, yeah, they have the trickle down effect. And TK, I know you do a lot of business, so I'm not harping on you or Frank.
No,
Leo,
don't worry.
That is,
you're right. And then that's what you should say.
And it's
like
a revolving door.
Right.
I say, well, ask X team how many people he's hired this year and how many people left, and that'll be pretty evident to the brand, right? It's not consistent. You have a second year person who joined a team because they can't find leads, and now that person's going to protect you in a contract. No, get out of here. Or that person's going to help negotiate for you. It's just not going to happen. But you do have people on teams who are very experienced. Like there is those outlier teams that have the people that have been there for a long time and they get treated well. But a lot of the time, it's a revolving door.
One thing that I think everyone should do is always assume that there's competition. So even if it's somebody that you're going to meet, like your own mother or whatever, like somebody who's really close to you, always just assume, treat them like, they need to know all the information that that's required for them to be successful, because you never know who's got their ear. Their hairstylist all of a sudden is saying something to them. So now you've just brushed it off like, whatever, right? Like whatever silly little thing. Oh, they're going to get you, more money, whatever the simple answer is, that's what they wanted to hear. And all of a sudden you didn't go through everything with them to explain exactly what it is you're going to do to ensure that their results are the best. So always assume that there's competition. So Darryl, whatever, I'm answering your question, whatever the number is, whether it's they tell you nobody or they tell you 10, you should always
just lying.
Treat them the same way and make sure that, you give them all the information they need, because it's important, right? It's a big decision.
Yeah, I agree.
How many times do people do $1 million, $2 million transactions in their lives?
Sure.
Yeah. I agree with you so much.
Right.
Very true.
Yeah. Just I call them lockbox openers, a lot of them, right?
A lot of them.
Yeah, order takers.
Most they should do. Okay, I have one last question for them, TK.
Yeah.
Actually, this is for you too.
Go first.
Yeah. Okay, so it's great that we have you both here, because the question, my daughter is trying to kind of decide where she fits in this. She's a realtor as well. She's young. She's trying to figure out what brokerage to join and kind of what part of the real estate industry to be in. But the main thing that we keep discussing, and that I think is important for people to think about is, do I become the brand, or is it better to join a brand? And so what I like about the two of you is, obviously, Brooke, you chose to become the brand, right? Mm-hmm. And Cortez, you decided to join the brand, and TK also has decided to join the brand. I know myself, if I were in that situation, I would never be able to join a team. I would have to be the team leader. But how do you two decide, Brooke? Like, how do you decide that you want to be the team leader and have a team? And then Cortez, how do you decide that it's better for you to join?
It's a little
team?
different with Cortez because we do the podcast, which is a separate brand, which is the two of us. So it makes sense for us to work together, right? My team is very much the girls answer to me, and then Cortez and I I'd refer more to him as him and I work together. But it's confusing for clients if we have different different email signatures and stuff. So we align it. However, when I talk to people, I say Cortez runs the podcast because he does infinitely more with the podcast. And then I do a lot more lead generation so that him and I can work listings together and the girls would answer to me.
But why did you decide to start the Brooke HIcks team instead of going to join like the Frank Leo team or the Tom Story team or some other team?
Yeah. Well, I was on a team. So I was on a team for 3 years, and it helped me with the, startups of everything that I thought was possible and just really getting a footing. I think it's smart for people to join a team when they're new. I think it's very smart, actually. Surround yourself with people that are doing what you want to do and successful in the ways you want to be successful. And then it comes a point where you either get too busy, or some people have the goal to have, their name out there, and some people don't, right? Some people are just happy with, their family life. They have kids and they're just happy with their 15 deals a year on the team, and that's good for them. And then some people want to grow it. And I just found that I was too busy on the team that I was on, that I needed way too many support people. So then it became I would bring on support people, but then it was they're with me, but on a team. So it was a team on a team, which wasn't working. So because of the level of volume that was happening, I needed support. And then Cortez and I were doing our podcast. So again, we wanted to align things. Again, we have a different brand for the podcast. So he focuses on that. I focus on the team. And then the girls help me a lot with leases and all of those kind of trickle down deals that get lost when you're trying to run everything just by yourself.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. Yeah. So I'll touch on that too. Yeah. Like Brooke said, we have a very different partnership. Like we're, working on our own website and everything like that. So we both are kind of like a combined brand. I know it's a bit confusing, but Brooke likes helping people and likes teaching people the ropes. And I'm not really
I don't.
I'm just not I just don't want to help someone from the ground up, because I know how hard it is and how much time it would take. So for me, it's I should just do it myself and get it done, or I can go do other things that I like to do, like play pickleball or hang out with my friends. I don't want more added stress in my life, to be honest with you. That's the way I kind of look at it. But if I was your daughter, and what I did was that I joined a couple teams growing up. The first team I joined was a small boutique team, and they had no leads. And anything that I did was 50-50. So I was young. I didn't know any different. But what I learned was how to generate business on my own. I would literally just go to the office and listen to these guys talk because I had nothing to lose. And I would ask them if I could go on listing appointments with them to see what they would do and how they sold themselves. And I wouldn't be on that listing at all. I wouldn't get paid. I would go there and I basically worked for free for a year, and then just to learn, because that's the most important thing that I think you can do when you start out, is not focusing on the check. The checks will come later, year 4 and 5, when you start getting referrals, when you start putting yourself out there. But I would join a small boutique team first if I was starting, so I could get the top guy and understand and learn from the top guy, or I would ask to be an assistant or something like that. That's what I would do if I was to start out. Because if you start out by yourself and you're 21, who's gonna take you seriously, right? Not a lot of people. But if you're 21 and you have this person who's got 15-20 years of experience, who's coming into listing appointment with you, and you're going to split it 50-50, you got a good chance of winning that listing appointment in that sense. So yeah, that's what I would do if I had to start over right now.
Good advice. I've shared my thoughts on it, so I agree with both of you. Yeah, find the path that works for you. It makes sense. Get a lot of experience. People belong on teams. Some people should be team leaders. Some people should be on their own. Maybe somebody goes back and forth until they find the right fit.
Right.
but definitely try. If it feels like it's not working, try the other way until you find something that makes sense for you.
Yeah.
That's definitely it.
So
where's the market
don't
going?
realize that they can change their mind after they try something, right? It's like it's
go
the
try,
only
try different places. Yeah.
Yeah.
Life
I
is
don't
long.
think a brokerage is going to save you. I think it's more like you need to come in with, I need to learn from someone who's willing to teach me and they have a lot of experience and they've transacted a lot. I think that's the best thing. EXP won't save you regardless of what they hype
Brokerage
up. Royal LePage won't save you. None of that's going to work. I promise you. I've seen it all. So
yeah. So market conditions, last question, guys. Where are we going? How is this year going to end? July 4th today. We got another full 6 months of the year. Where do we sit at the end of this year?
We have a Bank of Canada meeting coming up in a bit too.
I think it's at the end of July. Yeah. Well, I think that inflation reaccelerated, so I don't think we're going to see this cut in July. I think we'll see another cut in September, but I think it'll be noise, right? I think like the June cut was just noise, and we're not seeing, I'm not seeing this rush of buyers that every realtor kind of predicted, or even, Phil Sofer. I work for Royal LePage, but he said the same thing: is that we have this pent up demand that I'm not seeing right now. Maybe that'll change by the end of the year. Yeah, it feels great. Yeah,
he should be in the media all the time for realtors.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just going to be like a slow, steady ride, just how it is kind of for the rest of the year. There'll be like little upticks here and there, just like as the seasons change, but I don't think anything crazy or noteworthy. I think it's just going to be pretty even keel. Like, and then obviously you see the ups and downs just based on single transactions getting high, one getting low kind of thing, but nothing too crazy. I think that next year maybe we'll see, people gaining more confidence to get back in the market. And then as we see, the election and rates maybe down even further, where mortgage prices are more comparable to what rent prices are, that's when people will jump ship and want to become a homeowner rather than just rent. But yeah, I don't see anything like crazy for the next 6 months.
Yeah,
nice.
I'm worried. I'm worried about the Canadian economy overall. That's just my opinion. I think that it's there's a lot of worrisome sites. I think a lot of people are taking money out of this country. And Darryl, you probably have a lot of developer buddies that you can speak more to this about. But I think that the Canadian economy has just been way too reliant on housing as a productive asset as well as public jobs. And I think that we need a big change in this country of productivity and not masking it with immigration. So I guess that's where I worry a lot, is that we put too many eggs in one basket, and that basket might be broken.
Well, developers want to develop. Trust me. And I know all of them, everybody's looking at deals and everybody's got their parameters. And if they can hit the right parameters, guys will pounce. But, I think everybody sees a giant gaping hole coming up in the supply in the next few years, especially since they don't seem to be interested in curbing that demand side of the equation at all. It seems like they're actually kind of ramping things up. We're switching things to, other there's a lot of people still coming in, and there's way more than ever before still coming in, even though they've, ticked off India and the students, there's still a shit ton of people coming to this country. So it's, if they're going to keep bringing in immigration and they're going to slow us down from building, and they're going to maybe trickle in a couple of quarter point cuts, along the way to keep, the market from cratering completely, it's going to be a wacky place to do business for people, right? I mean, how hard is it to price things right now? It's going to be just a wacky place to work in real estate, I think. Because, we saw the crash. People don't realize it came down 25-30% in a lot of places already. That's a bloody crash. Okay, now we're just kind of hovering around, everybody's sitting there looking at each other going like, I kind of want to do something, but I don't know if I should do something.
You go first. You go first, and then
what's he gonna do, right? Let's see what Darryl does. That guy's stupid. He's gonna buy something for sure, right?
So why aren't developers building? Are they looking at other countries to start allocating capital, or it just doesn't make sense?
No, you can't sell. Look, guys are trying. Guys are launching stuff over the last little while. Not very many of them, because everybody, like TK is saying, it's like you go first. So then one guy's probably not making a decision based only on him wanting to launch. Some guy's got a gun to his head saying like, you either got to pay us back all this money, renew, or launch. Like something has to happen, right? And then they launch and they fall flat, so they can't build, right? If you don't get your 65, 70% sold, right, you're not launching, or you're not building. You're not going to go in the ground. So guys are trying to figure out other ways to make money or not lose money on that piece of dirt right now. So some of them, it might be going for another 15 stories. Some of them, it might be trying to sell it zoned, which is, I mean, if you're trying to sell a condo, try selling a zoned site right now, right? Because nobody wants to launch the zoned site, right? It used to be, oh my God, everybody's making money. Give me a zoned site. We could go in the ground right now. Let's make a bunch of money. Now it's like, zoned site, fuck that shit. Like,
but no one's buying these developments because the prices are too high for the public, but the developers can't sell them at any less cost because their costs are so high for permits and materials. Is that the issue?
Listen, when you're buying a piece of land, you put in a number for the pro forma, for the sale price, and for the hard construction costs, and for everything. And most, deals are hovering a line of whether it's worth doing or not. And so if one thing goes this way, now you're under the line and it doesn't make sense to do anymore. And so if you've plugged in, let's say a lot of guys bought crazy land in downtown because they thought they'd get $1,600 a foot because everybody was getting $1,600 a foot. Now go try and get $1,350 downtown and tell me how it goes, right? So if you're guessing 1,500 and you got lucky, everybody got 1,600. Now you can't even get 1,350. You're fucked. You're fucked. And you don't even want to sell, right? And so now you got to try and figure out, what the hell can I do to not lose all this money and get my investors after me and get sued into oblivion? What's the next move, right? So some guys will try and sell the land. If that fails, go for rezoning. I don't know. Luckily, I haven't been in that position yet. But who knows?
He won't be.
Cool.
Guys, shameless plug. Where can guys find you, people who are listening and watching the show? Give us a little shameless plug.
Yeah, you can find us on YouTube and Spotify, Canadian Real Estate Homefront, and same with TikTok and Instagram. That's where we're most followed on those two platforms. So if you want to check us out, we appreciate it. And yeah, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you can watch both shows.
Canadian Real Estate Homefront.
Thanks, guys. Well, thanks for
guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right.
Appreciate it.
Enjoy your day.
You too. Bye.